The ocean stretched endlessly, a deep blue expanse meeting the horizon under the golden Caribbean sun. The cruise ship, a floating palace of luxury, carved through the waters with ease. On board, laughter and music filled the air as passengers indulged in fine dining, poolside cocktails, and the promise of adventure. For newlyweds Michael and Lisa Carter, this was more than just a vacation. It was a celebration of their love, a honeymoon they had dreamed about for years. Lisa, 29, was an elementary school teacher known for her warm smile and kind heart. She loved reading romance novels, always imagining the perfect love story for herself. When she met Michael, a 32-year-old financial analyst, she felt like she had finally found the missing piece of her life. He was charming, confident, and had a way of making her laugh, even on the worst days. Their whirlwind romance led to a beautiful wedding just weeks ago, and now they were sailing across the Caribbean, excited for the memories they were about to create. They boarded the ship in Miami, joining thousands of other excited travelers. Everything felt perfect. Their cabin had a private balcony with a breathtaking ocean view. The first few days were magical, exploring the ship, dining at exquisite restaurants, dancing under the stars. Lisa had always loved the ocean, and every evening she would stand at the railing, watching the waves crash against the ship, feeling the salty breeze in her hair. Michael made sure to document their trip, snapping pictures of Lisa in her sundresses, laughing with a cocktail in hand, or twirling on the dance floor. They spent their days snorkeling in crystal-clear waters, sipping pina coladas on white sand beaches, and getting lost in the charm of Caribbean ports. The cruise felt like a dream, a perfect beginning to their forever. But perfection is often an illusion. On the fourth night, the couple attended a lively deck party. The music pulsed through the air, lights flashing as guests danced and celebrated. Lisa, wearing a flowing red dress, held Michael's hand as they swayed to the rhythm. The bartender recognized them from the previous nights and greeted them with their usual drinks, Lisa's favorite mojito and Michael's whiskey on the rocks. At some point in the night, Lisa wanted to explore the ship a bit more. "I'll be right back," she told Michael, smiling as she disappeared into the crowd. It wasn't unusual. She often liked taking a stroll alone, enjoying the cool breeze and the quiet of the open sea. Michael stayed behind, assuming she'd return soon. Minutes turned into an hour. The party was still going strong, but Lisa had not come back. Michael checked his phone. No messages. Maybe she had gone to their room? He decided to look for her. The hallways were quiet, lined with closed cabin doors. He swiped his key card, pushing the door open. Their room was dark. The bed was neatly made, the balcony doors slightly open, letting the ocean air drift in. But Lisa was nowhere to be found. Michael's stomach tightened. He checked the bathroom. Empty. He walked back to the deck, scanning the crowd. Maybe she had run into someone they met earlier. Maybe she was at another bar. He asked a few people, but no one had seen her. Something wasn't right. He approached a crew member. "Excuse me, have you seen my wife? She was just here, but I can't find her anywhere." The crew member offered a polite but uncertain smile. "Maybe she's in another part of the ship." Sometimes guests go to the observation deck or the lounge areas. Michael nodded, trying to shake off the growing sense of dread. He searched the observation deck, the casino, even the small library Lisa had loved. Still nothing. It was past midnight now, and his heart pounded harder with every passing minute. Finally, he went to the ship's reception desk. "I need help," he said, his voice strained. "My wife is missing." The receptionist straightened. "How long has she been gone?" "A few hours," Michael said, realizing how insane it sounded. A few hours wasn't long. People lost track of time on cruises all the time, but this was Lisa. She wouldn't just disappear. The staff assured him they would make an announcement and start searching. By 2 a.m., the entire ship was aware Lisa Carter was missing. Crew members checked security footage, scanned decks, and asked passengers if they had seen anything. Nothing. Lisa had vanished. Michael's heart pounded as he followed the crew through the ship's brightly lit hallways. The festive atmosphere from earlier had faded, replaced by a strange, unsettling quiet. Guests who had still been awake were now murmuring among themselves, glancing at him with curiosity and concern. He barely noticed. His mind raced with possibilities, each one darker than the last. The ship's security team was already reviewing the footage from the deck party. Michael stood behind them, watching the screens flicker as different camera angles played. There was Lisa, laughing, her red dress flowing as she moved. She stepped away from the crowd, weaving through dancing passengers, heading toward the ship's railing. And then she was gone. The footage cut to another angle, showing her walking down a quieter corridor. She appeared to be looking for something or someone. Then she disappeared out of view. The camera didn't cover the next section of the ship. Michael clenched his fists. That's it? That's all you have? A security officer frowned. The ship has blind spots. We're checking the next closest cameras. Michael's breathing was ragged. The footage showed nothing unusual. No one had followed her, no sudden movement, nothing to indicate foul play. But she had vanished into thin air. The ship's captain arrived, his face grim. "Mr. Carter, we've initiated a full search. Every crew member is checking all decks, storage rooms, and restricted areas. We've also alerted the Coast Guard." Michael barely heard him. He turned back to the security team. "Play it again," he demanded. The footage rolled once more. The way Lisa moved, it didn't seem like she was simply taking a walk. There was a slight hesitation, as if she were second-guessing something. Was she meeting someone? Was she feeling unwell? His mind spun in circles. The crew searched every public space. Guests were asked if they had seen Lisa after she left the party, but no one had. The casino, the lounges, the upper deck, all turned up nothing. A deep sense of panic set in. Then came the announcement over the ship's intercom. "Attention, all guests. We are currently searching for a missing passenger, Lisa Carter. If you have any information regarding her whereabouts, please contact the reception desk immediately." Michael's hands trembled as he paced the lobby. He checked his phone again, hoping for a message, a missed call, anything. But there was nothing. The silence was suffocating. A crew member approached. "Sir, we need you to return to your cabin." Michael's eyes narrowed. "Why?" "I need to be out here looking for her." The man hesitated. "We understand, but protocol requires us to interview you and search your cabin as well." Michael felt the weight of their suspicion. "You think I did something to her?" His voice rose, drawing glances from nearby guests. "No, sir, it's just procedure," the crew member assured him. Michael swallowed the lump in his throat and followed them. His cabin was exactly as he had left it. Lisa's belongings were still neatly packed. Her book resting on the nightstand. Her phone was gone. Had she taken it with her? A female security officer gently asked, "When was the last time you saw your wife?" Michael ran a hand through his hair. "Around 11. We were at the party. She said she'd be right back. She never came back." "Did she seem upset? Was she arguing with anyone?" "No." Michael shook his head. "She was happy. We were having a great time." They continued with their questions. Had Lisa been drinking? Did she take medication? Was she prone to wandering off? Michael answered each one with growing frustration. Lisa wasn't the type to get drunk and disappear. Then came the hardest question. Is there any chance she would have left the ship on her own? Michael stiffened. What? No, absolutely not. But doubt crept in. What if something had been bothering Lisa? What if she had needed space? He shook the thought away. That wasn't Lisa. She wouldn't just leave him like this. Hours passed, but the ship was massive. Searching every inch took time. The captain finally made a difficult announcement. Due to maritime law, the ship couldn't turn around. But they had notified authorities, and helicopters would be sweeping the area soon. Michael's stomach turned. Helicopters meant one thing. They thought she had fallen overboard. He refused to believe it. Lisa wasn't reckless. And if she had fallen, someone would have seen or heard something. But as the hours dragged on, his worst fears took hold. Where was she? The sun rose over the endless blue of the Caribbean, casting a golden glow over the water. But for Michael, the beauty of the morning was meaningless. He had spent the entire night pacing, questioning everyone he could, demanding answers. None came. Lisa was still missing. Crew members continued their search, knocking on cabin doors, checking every lounge, hallway, and storage area. Security reviewed more footage, but there were still gaps, blind spots where Lisa could have gone unseen. Michael felt helpless. He wasn't the type to sit still, but there was nothing he could do except wait and pray for a breakthrough. Then, a knock at his door. A senior security officer and another crew member stood outside, their expressions unreadable. Michael's chest tightened. "Did you find her?" The officer hesitated. "We need you to come with us." Michael followed them through the quiet hallways. The usual sounds of laughter and music were gone. It was as if the entire ship was holding its breath. He was led into a private room where two uniformed officers from local maritime authorities were waiting. They had boarded the ship at the last port, taking over the investigation. One of them, a stern-looking man with a thick accent, motioned for Michael to sit. "Mr. Carter, we have reviewed security footage and spoken with passengers. We need to ask you a few more questions." Michael felt a chill crawl up his spine. "I already told your crew everything. I just want to know where my wife is." The officer folded his hands on the table. "We understand, but there are details we need to clarify." Michael clenched his jaw. "Like what?" The officer studied him carefully. "First, did Lisa seem different in the days leading up to her disappearance? Did she seem nervous, anxious, or upset?" Michael shook his head. "No, she was happy. We were having the time of our lives." The officer exchanged glances with his partner. "Are you certain? Because some passengers mentioned seeing Lisa alone at times, looking distracted, even distressed." Michael's stomach twisted. "That doesn't make sense." One of the officers slid a piece of paper across the table. It was a printed screenshot from a security camera. Lisa was alone, standing near the railing on a quieter part of the deck. She was looking over her shoulder, her expression tense, as if she was afraid of something or someone. Michael stared at the image, his pulse pounding. Where was this taken? Roughly 15 minutes before you reported her missing. Michael felt the world shift beneath him. He had thought she was just stepping away for a moment. But what if she had been trying to escape something? What if she had been in danger? He leaned forward. Was someone following her? The officer remained silent for a moment. Then he sighed. "The problem is, we don't know." Michael's frustration boiled over. "What do you mean, you don't know? This ship has cameras everywhere." "There are gaps," the officer admitted. "And in those gaps, Lisa disappears." Michael gripped the edges of the table, his knuckles turning white. The officer's words echoed in his head. "Lisa disappears." He shook his head. "No, that doesn't make sense. She wouldn't just vanish." The officer exhaled slowly. "Mr. Carter, we are considering multiple possibilities. An accident, foul play, or..." He hesitated. "The possibility that she left on her own." Michael's jaw tightened. "You think she jumped?" "We don't have enough evidence to say that." "Then what are you saying?" His voice was sharp, anger and desperation mixing together. The officer exchanged another glance with his partner before sliding a folder across the table. "There's something else." Michael hesitated before opening it. Inside were records, transaction timestamps, and security logs. His eyes scanned the pages quickly. And then he saw it. Lisa's key card had been used after she disappeared. His pulse quickened. Where was this? One of the staff-only corridors. Michael felt dizzy. His wife hadn't simply vanished. Someone had used her key card after she was gone. That meant she had either been alive after the search had started, or someone else had been using it. He looked up at the officers. Then someone took her. They remained quiet for a long moment before one of them said, "We're considering that possibility." Michael clenched his fists. "Considering? My wife is missing. Her key card was used, and you're still unsure." The officer remained calm. It could have been stolen, or she could have been trying to leave unnoticed. Michael's mind reeled. None of this fit. Lisa wasn't the type to disappear voluntarily. And even if she had, why would she sneak through staff areas? Why wouldn't she tell him? He leaned forward. What about the cameras? Were any near that corridor working? The officer's expression darkened. No, that area had a blind spot. Michael's stomach dropped. A blind spot, a place where cameras didn't reach, where Lisa or whoever had her key card could move unseen. He shot up from his chair. You need to search that area. Now! The officers didn't argue. They led him out of the room and through the quiet, early morning corridors of the ship. Crew members nodded respectfully as they passed, their faces marked with concern. The ship, which had once felt like paradise, now felt like a cage. They reached the restricted hallway. It was a narrow corridor leading to storage rooms, maintenance areas, and emergency exits. It was a place most passengers never saw. A security guard stood at the entrance, waiting. We've checked most of the rooms, but there's one we haven't opened yet. Michael's pulse pounded in his ears. The officer gave a sharp nod. Open it. The guard hesitated for only a second before unlocking the door. The heavy metal creaked as it swung open, revealing a small, dimly lit room. Inside, shelves lined the walls, stacked with spare linens and cleaning supplies. But that wasn't what made Michael's breath catch in his throat. On the floor, near the back of the room, was a single red high heel. Lisa's shoe. Michael rushed forward. Snatching it up, it was hers. He recognized it instantly. She had worn these at the party. He spun around. She was here. Someone brought her here. One of the officers stepped forward, studying the shoe. He nodded at the guard, checked the rest of the area. The guard pulled out a flashlight and started searching the shelves, the walls, the corners. Dust floated in the air as he moved things aside, looking for anything, a clue, a message, anything that could tell them what had happened here. Michael's breathing was ragged. Lisa had been here, which meant she hadn't fallen overboard. She hadn't just disappeared into the ocean. Something had happened to her, and someone on this ship knew exactly what. Michael's hands trembled as he held Lisa's shoe. It was real, solid, proof that she had been here. His mind raced, piecing together every moment of the night she disappeared. The party, the way she looked over her shoulder in the security footage, the blind spots in the ship's cameras, and now, this, she hadn't vanished. She had been taken. One of the officers knelt beside him, inspecting the shoe closely. He turned it over, studying the scuffed heel, the slight smudge of something dark on the side. There was a struggle, he murmured. She fought. Michael swallowed hard. He could see it now. Lisa being dragged through this hallway, maybe kicking, maybe screaming. But no one heard her. No one saw her. Because whoever had done this had known exactly where to go, exactly where the cameras wouldn't reach. The officer turned to the security guard. Check every staff member on duty that night. Look at cleaning crew logs, maintenance schedules, anyone who had access to this area. The guard nodded and hurried off. Michael's pulse pounded in his ears. Someone on this ship did this, he said through clenched teeth. The officer didn't deny it. We're considering all possibilities. Michael wasn't interested in possibilities. He wanted answers. He pushed past the officer and stormed out of the storage room, determination burning through his veins. If security wasn't moving fast enough, he would find Lisa himself. He moved through the ship, knocking on doors, asking passengers if they had seen anything. Some looked at him with pity. Others were uncomfortable, avoiding his gaze. A few murmured about the rumors spreading through the ship that a woman had vanished, that maybe it was an accident, or maybe it was something much worse. But no one knew anything, or if they did, they weren't talking. Michael knew time was running out. The ship would soon dock at its next port. People would leave. Crew members would change shifts. Whoever had taken Lisa could slip away, vanish into crowd, never to be seen again. He had to act now. As he turned a corner, he nearly collided with a woman, one of the bartenders from a party. She gasped, recognizing him immediately. "Oh, Mr. Carter." She hesitated, lowering her voice. "Did they find her?" Michael stared at her. "No, but I know she didn't fall. She was taken." The bartender paled. She glanced around nervously before leaning in. "I don't know anything for sure, but I did see something strange that night." Michael's breath caught. What did you see?" She hesitated. "There was a man. Not a guest. At least, I don't think he was. He wasn't dressed like one. I noticed him because he kept watching people instead of enjoying the party. He was near the bar when your wife walked away. Michael's hands clenched. Do you remember what he looked like? She nodded slowly. Tall, dark hair. He had a crew badge, but I've never seen him working before. Michael's stomach twisted. A crew member? Maybe. Or someone pretending to be one. The bartender glanced over her shoulder. Look, I don't want any trouble. I just thought you should know. Michael's mind was racing. If this man had a fake badge, it meant he had access to places passengers didn't. It also meant he could move around without suspicion. A plan formed in his head. He had to find out who this man was. And the only way to do that was to go to the one place no one wanted him, below deck. He moved quickly, his heart pounding. He knew security would stop him if they saw him, so he took the longer route, slipping past distracted crew members, avoiding cameras when he could. He had studied the layout of the ship in the brochures. He knew where the staff areas were, where they took breaks, where they stored supplies. He reached a heavy door marked crew only and hesitated only for a second before pushing through. The air was different here. Colder, quieter. The bright, welcoming atmosphere of the cruise vanished. The hallways were plain, industrial, lined with metal doors and dim lights. He walked forward, keeping his footsteps light. Then he heard it. A voice. Low. Whispering. He pressed himself against the wall, inching closer. We need to move now. They're searching the ship. Michael's breath caught. A second voice, gruffer. Not yet. Too risky. We wait for the next port. Michael's blood ran cold. Lisa. They had her, and they were planning to take her off the ship. His mind screamed at him to act, but he forced himself to stay still, to think. If he barged in now, he could be overpowered. He needed security, needed proof. He reached for his phone, his hand shaking as he pressed record and carefully tilted it toward the small gap in the door. The voices continued, muttering about times, locations, keeping her hidden. Then footsteps. Michael barely had time to pull back before the door swung open. A tall man stepped out. Dark hair, crew badge, the same man the bartender had described. Michael's breath hitched. The man's eyes swept the hallway. Then, without another word, he walked off. Michael exhaled slowly. He had the recording. He had the proof. Now he just had to save Lisa. But before he could move, a hand clamped down on his shoulder. He spun, heart hammering. Security. A stern-faced officer glared at him. You're not supposed to be here. Michael grabbed his phone. Holding it up, listen to this. Now. The officer frowned but took the phone. He played the recording, his expression shifting from irritation to shock. He turned sharply to his radio. Captain, we have a situation. Michael's pulse pounded as more officers arrived. The energy shifted. No longer was he being treated like a desperate husband searching for a lost wife. Now they knew Lisa had been taken, and there was still time to get her back. The next minutes blurred together. Officers rushing down the hallway, radios crackling, orders being shouted. Michael followed, his heart in his throat. He wasn't going to let them do this alone. They reached the locked storage room. The officer from earlier didn't hesitate. He raised a key card, swiped it, and pushed inside. And there she was, Lisa, bound, gagged, eyes wide with fear, until they landed on him. Then tears. Relief. Michael surged forward, helping untie her as officers swarmed the room, pulling weapons, pinning down the man inside, the same one from the bar, the one who had been watching, waiting. Lisa collapsed into Michael's arms, shaking. I thought. He held her tightly. I'm here. I found you. You're safe. The officers dragged the man away, his protests falling on deaf ears. Other crew members arrived, faces pale, whispering among themselves. Michael didn't care about any of it. He only cared about Lisa. She was safe, and the nightmare was finally over. If you made it this far, hit that like button and subscribe for more true crime mysteries that will keep you on the edge of your seat. What do you think happened that night? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that happen in real life.